All right, it's been a while since I've done a video, mainly because business is a little bit slow, and I ended up doing some routine maintenance on my truck because I was basically neglecting it. A lot of things just started showing up, and I had to work on them all. And I don't know about you, but like when I'm working on my old vehicles and stuff like that, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've seen a lot of issues and corrected them, and I really don't like it anymore now that I'm older when I have to start thinking, because problems, you know, reoccurring problems are easy to fix, but then when you got to start using your brain to figure things out, things get kind of tough, you know. And then you've also got failed attempts at fixing things and making things work, etc., etc. So let me go over some of the stuff that I started with and was working on with my old 87 shop truck J10 with J20 axles. So it's actually a J20. But what I was experiencing was I was getting what I thought was an exhaust leak, and every once in a while, intermittently, I would get the temperature would go up on it a little bit, but then it would straighten out. But things just with the overheating got worse and worse, so that it was basically where I couldn't trust it on a ride to take it anywhere. So I got into this thing, and of course, you know, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hunt down this exhaust leak, and I'm gonna change the valve cover gaskets and stuff like that, because they'd been in there for 15 years and they were leaking, and there was an exhaust leak on this side here on the driver's side. So I started digging into that stuff and did it and fixed those, and I found out that the major part of the exhaust leak was actually the number, let's see, what is it? This is the odd side, so it'd be 1, 3, 5, and 7. Spark plug number 7 had worked its way loose, and that's where the biggest part of the exhaust leak was, right? And so I got that stuff fixed. I painted up the exhaust manifolds, made them look pretty, and even the valve covers, I painted them like a John Deere green. So I was really stepping up my game, you know, because I hadn't been in here to work on it. So then I started looking at the overheating issues, and I didn't see any signs of a bad head gasket, because I wasn't seeing pressure or foam in the radiator fluid. But as I started pulling things apart and working on it, I found out that the auto parts water pump that I put on it about 8 years ago, the bearing was shot in it, and it wasn't leaking, but it was shot. And I'm like, so I'm not gonna leave that on there. So I ended up getting a Stay Cool high performance water pump to put on there, because maybe that'll buy me more time. Maybe I'll be old and gone before I have to replace it again. And so while I was looking at that, I also found out that the fan clutch was leaking fluid, so it was ready to fail, so I replaced that. I mean, this thing is just pyramiding and getting larger and larger. And so one of the things that I noticed, because I put a part on, and then I test drive it, and it's still overheating. So I put another part on, test drive it, still overheating. So in the process of time and overheating the vehicle, it ended up blowing out the freeze plug on this side. Not blew it out, it was just rusty, and it finally let loose. So I'm like, man, that's the problem. So I had to pull the accessories off and get to that and replace it. So I did that, and that didn't fix it. So now I've gotten to where the point where I was test driving it, and then I started seeing bubbles in the tank. And that indicated that if I had a failing head gasket, it was getting worse. And so I decided that I'm going to go ahead and do the head gaskets, and I would do it while it's still in the vehicle. Well, these hoods don't go very high, and it's a cramped area that they can pull a 60 or 70 pound head off your engine. But I did it. Didn't like it at all, but I did it, and I basically cleaned up the surfaces. They were all within spec. You know, they hadn't worked that much. They weren't perfectly flat, but they were within spec. So I put new gaskets on there, tightened everything down, and that was a chore, getting a torque wrench into all those places, then putting the rocker arms back on. And you gotta maintain the order of how they came out so they go back into the same spot. So I did all that, and so now it is basically finished. The whole top of the engine was pulled off, the intake manifold, I cleaned it up. Oh, and also the Edelbrock intake manifold that I have has the exhaust crossover, which in Florida I don't need. So I filled that crossover with foam, and then at each port where it bolts to the head, I dug a little bit of the foam out and I put high temperature RTV there. So now I won't have any exhaust gases traversing through the intake manifold, causing that to heat up and accelerating or making my vapor lock issues here in Florida worse. So I've eliminated that problem. And one thing that I do recommend for anybody that plans on keeping their truck for a while, if you're just going to throw it together and then probably sell it, then you don't need to worry about this. But if you're going to take an exhaust manifold off, do yourself a favor, the future self a favor, by putting 2 studs in the heads instead of bolts, because it's almost impossible by yourself to hold the manifold, the exhaust manifold, into position and to get these bolts started. So what I did is I put a stud in the center, and I put a stud on the back on both of these exhaust manifolds, so that now all I have to do is slide it onto the studs hold it in place so that I can fish the other bolts in, and then I put nuts on the studs. So that's a nice setup, so that if I ever tear into this thing again, Lord help me if I have to, but if I ever have to get into it again, it'll be easier. And also I did 2 studs for the bracketry that goes on the passenger side, because there is a stud that goes through the water jacket on the passenger side, and also it's the mount for the air conditioner compressor. So I put a stud on there and a bolt that'll hold the timing chain cover in place so that it doesn't want to leak on you as soon as you go to remove it. And then I also put a long stud here to mount my alternator on, so that when I need to put the alternator back in, I can slide it over the stud, and the stud holds it in place, and then everything else goes together just fine. So definitely do your future self a favor, put a couple studs over here in the intake manifold area. I also put a stud on the power steering pump so that I can just slide that on there and everything lines up. And like I said, and on the exhaust manifolds. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been because of the heat and everything, I only work on these vehicles maybe 2-3 hours in the afternoon, of course, when it's the hottest. And I can't tolerate much more than that, but it's fun. I love these old trucks, And so now I got this one back on the road, and my Cherokee is my daily driver, so I've been driving that a lot. And we'll be picking up some more ideas on things that I want to do. Now that I've been driving it, I've had to drive it in the rain a few times, and the intermittent wipers on the Cherokee are very intermittent, like don't work most of the time, intermittent. So I need to figure that out. And one of the other things that I need to do is get a headliner in that Cherokee, and I still need to paint those front fenders. So we'll be doing that here in the near future. And like I said, I really like these old vehicles. I like these old trucks. They're a lot of fun, except when you actually have to troubleshoot and problem solve. Yeah, I'm past those days, you know what I mean? But yeah, just looking at that, got a little bit of cleanup to do here in the shop from the 3 weeks of catching up on the maintenance of the shop truck, and then we'll get into some other stuff. Now, what do you guys think about this? I've been thinking about an opportunity years ago when I was salvaging out the full-size Jeeps. CJs were gold, right? I couldn't buy an old CJ for parts or to resell because people wanted too much money for them. Well, now the CJs aren't so popular. It looks like the TJs are the way to go. People are actually buying up the TJs and paying good money for them. So here in Florida, there's at least 5 CJs, and I'm talking about CJ5s and CJ7s. And you know, the CJ5s and the 7s aren't that valuable. The resale on them's not that high, but a CJ8 is. So I'm considering getting these CJ5s and CJ7s. Now they have to have a Florida title. Getting a good title, stripping them down, and buying a trashed Wagoneer drivetrain, rebuilding it, axles, engine, and transmission, putting it in the CJ, but making a CJ clone, or CJ8, a CJ8 clone. CJ8s are rare and big money. So I'm thinking about cloning these CJ5s and 7s and turning them into 8s, and I can get body kits for, you know, $4,500, and then all I have to do is paint them and put them on the vehicle. And so I could basically take a CJ5 that I can get for dirt cheap, clone it into a CJ8 with a new tub, new rebuilt drivetrain from a Wagoneer, and put it on the market. So I'm considering that. I don't need those for myself. I think they're cool, but if that's an option where people would really want to have the CJ8 because of the longer wheelbase and the better ride, that's something I'm going to try. Maybe it'll take 1 or 2 of these things to see if the market allows it, but I'm thinking about that as a next goal here in the shop. So make sure you comment on the links. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know if it's a stupid idea because people have tried it in the past and it doesn't work. Just let me know. All right. Rock Lawrence out.